time, I get the privilege of introducing somebody I have a profound respect for and a tremendous relationship in the governor's office. Eric Esser is, I'd like to recruit him sometime, but that's a whole other story. Eric Esser does a superb job on behalf of the governor. In fact, I think he has one of the hardest jobs in the governor's office. His job is to make sure that all these board positions all over the state of Wisconsin, throughout all the agencies across state government, and other commissions and boards that are appointed by the governor, he's the one that does the background check, the recruiting, and handholds every single appointee through this process. And I'm going to guess you've done 700 to 1,000? Okay, I'm way behind. He's done 1,500 appointments in the Walker administration since joining this administration. So he's the one that goes into this very tough job of making sure these appointees get here. And you know, not everyone is successful. That's 1,500 successful appointments and hundreds where sadly they don't pass the test. So at this time I'd like to introduce somebody I respect profoundly in Governor Walker's office, Eric Esser.
Thank you, everybody. With me is my colleague Elizabeth Hisme, and I'm sure most of you who are at least governor appointees, you've either talked to us on the phone, emailed, seen us in committees, or you'll be seeing us soon in a committee setting. Good morning to you all. Thank you, Secretary, very much for the not necessary remarks, but we really appreciate it. This truly is our largest agency that we deal with for boards and commissions. The governor appoints 190 boards throughout the state, and again, the majority are here in this agency. And as we indicated, about 1,500 people that we've appointed since we took office 3 years ago. And it's a great challenge, but it's something that we do definitely enjoy. We're continuing to look for help across all different areas, and we'll get on our soapbox here a little bit, just briefly. We won't take too much of your time. I want to speak to folks who are yet to go through the Senate confirmation process. For those of you who are still pending in that area, there's got to be several. I know in the Health Committee alone, I think there's over 40 appointments that are still pending. Right now we're kind of racing against the clock because the State Senate will be adjourning around April 1st, and they will not be returning until 2015. And so usually work that we can do throughout a year gets scrunched down into just a few months this calendar year. And so we're really working as diligently as we can to get folks through the process, get them confirmed so that you can be off and running. That's not to say that we won't continue to do appointments throughout the year, but what will happen then is they will stack up, and then the legislature that comes in 2015, whoever that may be, will take up those appointments at that time. So for those of you who are still waiting to do your hearing, I just wanted to take a little bit of a brief glimpse for you to see what's still coming for you. We'll be calling upon you to come up to the state capitol, and a Senate hearing will be held for you and for your colleagues. And it's actually not intimidating like a C-SPAN thing you can see on television, or a big Capitol Hill hearing where there's 60 legislators all standing and looking down at you. For those of you who've gone through the process, you all know it's actually pretty painless. And most of the time, the legislators want to know more about you and your profession than they necessarily do about the board in which you're about to serve. For example, we just had a veterinarian that went through 45 minutes roughly of questioning. And that's not typical, but in that case, it wasn't because it was, oh, prove to us you're worthy of this appointment. It was more so, we're very curious about large animal science, trends in the ag industry, tell us more. And a lot of times, that's what the legislators want. They want to know more about your industries, what you bring to the table, and what trends are you seeing here. So usually they're very brief testimonies, but occasionally you have your 40-minute questioning. But again, it's nothing where they're going to be throwing bombs over the fence at you and trying to stump the teacher. So it's usually a pretty rewarding experience. So you go through a brief hearing, you testify before the committee, answer questions for them, and then once that is done, the full, or your committee will actually vote on your appointment and give you the thumbs up. That gets kicked out to the full body. There's 33 senators in our state, and then they get an opportunity to all give a thumbs up or thumbs down on your appointment. And then once they give you the final blessing, you're off and running. And so think of it like this. The governor nominates you, and the Senate officially appoints you in your capacity. So For those of you who are still in that kind of in-between process, that's a little bit of what to expect. You'll be hearing from us very soon if you haven't already. What happens is they poll the senators to find out what their availability is for hearings. Once they all get their calendars in sync, we give you the notification. But some of you are probably sitting in the seat saying, yeah, the notification was about maybe 4 days worth. Trust me, that's not because that's something that we want to do to you. That's more or less the senator saying, you need to appear, be here, sorry for the late notice. So usually we try to give you at least a week's notice, but that doesn't always work. It just all depends, again, when the Senate notifies us of that. So we try to give you every notice as possible. Now, if you are unable to be here in person at the Capitol for your hearing, and again, this is because of the time crunch we're in, by all means, if you can move heaven and earth and get on the phone and phone in, please do so. It's just, we don't have a lot of extra weeks to work with them leaving. So if it's such a thing where you're thinking, wow, I'm going to be in Texas on business, or I'm on a family vacation in Florida, and I can't blame you for that at this time. If you can pick up the phone and get away, the legislators try to get you on the phone right away at the beginning of the hearing. You say your words, and then you're finished and you can go about your business for the day. So do us a favor, if you can, hop on the phone, and then we can get your hearing through it. Most of the senators are pretty lenient when it comes to being able to accommodate you in that regard. And also, in addition, we throw a little bit more homework at you, and that is to make sure that you're calling the senators, notifying them of your desire to be appointed, and then thanking them for their trust in you to do a great job and their vote of confidence in you. And so, as you know, that's usually the final step of the road for paperwork. As far as paperwork itself, as long as we're on that topic, oaths of office, if anybody is sitting in this room and you are a gubernatorial appointee and you have not signed an oath of office, please see one of us before we leave here today so we can make sure we get that taken care of. Everybody must sign an oath of office before they have their first meeting. If you have been participating in meetings without an oath of office signed, you actually vacate your seat by law, and then we actually have to reappoint you all over again. So it's very critical that that oath of office is signed for your first term, and if you're gracious enough to come back and give us a second term and serve the state, you do need to do another oath of office, and we always send those out in your packet. So please, please, please make sure that you have your oath of office completed. Other item is the statement of economic interest, which is required by state statute for all folks that have to go through the Senate confirmation process. Please make sure that you fill out your SEIs and have those completed within the 3-week deadline. If you have a hearing coming up, or at least you believe you'll be having a hearing coming up, the legislators like to have those in hand before you actually come to your hearing so that they can, if they have any questions, they can follow up with those. All of the boards here that are Senate confirmation require an SEI. There's a couple of boards, like the Bradley Center Board or the Milwaukee Brewers Board, that do not require those by statute. So please make sure you get those completed. And we're not trying to badger you, we're just trying to make sure we're compliant by state law and that we can keep the legislators happy. So Elizabeth is going to transition here a little bit and tell you a little bit about some future things for you.
Yeah, so if you're ever interested in being reappointed, we're just going to ask you to reapply. Just for our knowledge, say if you have moved somewhere, your number has changed, it just helps us keep updated with where you are in your life. So for reapply, you can go onto our website, and we have a new online fillable one. Some of you may have filled that one out, or others of you may have filled out our Word document one. Either one is completely acceptable. And so from there, you will also be called to go through the Senate confirmation process, unfortunately. But depending on the committee chair's office, or committee chair, you may be able to just phone in since you had already appeared before them. That's up to them. So, and that's a little bit about reappointments. And then, should you resign in the future, for if you have come across some kind of point in your life where you need to resign, we're going to ask that in addition to contacting your board supervisor, that you contact us. And in order for your resignation to be fully effective, it has to be addressed to Governor Walker. So if it says, Dear Craig Gaspard, I hereby resign, unfortunately that is not acceptable and you're still in your seat. But as soon as you say, Dear Governor Walker, then you have been effective in your resignation. A little bit note on term limits. You can have 2 consecutive terms, and then from there you must take a full term of a break before you can reapply. But I believe that's
That's just for your given board. If you're feeling like you'd like to serve in a different capacity, we'd love to have you, and we can transition you over to a different examining board for that purpose as well. I also want to echo the statements of the Secretary, and on behalf of Governor Walker, say thank you very much for what you're doing. We know that this is no easy task to be able to take the time that you do. Many of you drive several hours, but whether you drive 15 minutes or you drive 6 hours from Superior, we truly do appreciate your work, your time that you're giving, not only to the committee's process, dealing with us, getting the paperwork in, but most importantly, serving your peers and serving the citizens of our state, because these are very, very important boards, and we really appreciate it. On that, if we can step on the soapbox for one moment, we do have a big task in order of finding folks to be able to serve. And I think the most critical thing for us is finding public members to serve. It's usually not too hard to find professionals to serve in the capacity on these boards. But public members, citizen members to serve is a difficult thing for us to find. So if you know of anybody that would like to serve or is interested in serving, send them our way. We'd be happy to answer any questions. And also to kind of piggyback on that, once we leave you, it's kind of like graduation. All the kids go off and off they go, and we usually don't hear from you until it's time for reappointment. Don't be afraid to check in with us. We want to know how things are going on your boards. We'd love to hear about things. Obviously, if there are more things subject to the licensures and things like that, we want to make sure you're following up with the folks here. But don't be afraid to call the governor's office and let us know how things are going. If there's any questions or concerns, or if the committee process, you're worried about something, give us a call and we'll be sure to help you out. So again, thank you so much for what you're doing. We'll keep it short today. I know you have a little bit of a long day ahead of you, but thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
Anybody have any questions for Eric and Elizabeth? Hey, all right, take it easy. That's a good start. Well, thanks, guys. And like Eric said, if I could, echo, it is, how many times do we spend, days on the phone saying, hey, boy, we really need a public member for this board, or this board's down 2 public members. That is a really big thing. It is really important to have that public member perspective on the board, just as a balanced kind of outside, outside perspective, kind of out of the box. So that's really important to have. And so as some of you do, transition off of boards, if you run into potentially the end of your career on end of your second term, and you're moving off the board, and you're interested in still serving, get these guys an application because there's a public member spot waiting for you somewhere.